The galaxy had always considered Earth a primitive, insignificant world, a place where humanity struggled to survive. But everything changed the day the alien ambassador arrived. The moment his ship appeared in Earth's orbit, the eyes of the galaxy turned toward the planet. This was no ordinary visit. It was the beginning of something bigger, something humanity couldn't even imagine. The ambassador's ship was a marvel of alien engineering, sleek and elegant with a design that no human had ever seen before. It hovered silently in the sky, a massive shadow over the planet. News channels broadcasted the event across every city. People gathered in open spaces staring up at the sky, wondering what was happening. The streets buzzed with excitement and the air was thick with uncertainty. Was this the moment when humanity would meet its makers, or was it the start of something far more dangerous? The ambassador's message was broadcasted across all channels. His voice echoed through every speaker, calm and measured. He spoke of unity, of peace between worlds. For centuries, his people had watched humanity from afar, but now they were ready to offer an alliance. Their technology was unmatched, their resources vast. They promised to share their knowledge and power, bringing Earth into the fold of the galaxy's great civilizations. The people of Earth listened, transfixed. Some felt awe, others fear. But as the ambassador spoke, something strange began to happen. The temperature began to drop. The sky, which had been bright and clear moments before, started to darken. It was as if the sun itself was being swallowed by an unseen force. People gasped and looked up, confused. Then, as if on cue, a massive shadow passed over the Earth. It was as if the sun had disappeared entirely. Panic spread as the temperature dropped further, and people began to whisper in fear. What was happening? Why had the sun suddenly vanished? The answer came moments later, when the giant silhouette of a warship emerged from behind the sun. It was Aegis, humanity's greatest creation, the warship that had been hidden in the far reaches of space for decades. Built in secret, Aegis was the ultimate weapon, a ship so large that it could cover the sun itself. Its dark outline stretched across the sky, blocking out the light and casting the Earth in an eerie twilight. The ambassador's speech faltered. His calm, controlled demeanor cracked as he paused. His eyes widened, and for the first time, uncertainty crept into his voice. The very message he had come to deliver was being overshadowed by the arrival of this warship. His people had come to Earth to offer peace, but humanity had something else in mind. The ambassador stood in silence, unsure of how to proceed. His words were lost in the overwhelming presence of the warship. Humanity's response to the alien visitors was clear. No one had expected the Aegis to appear at such a moment. It wasn't a peacekeeper. It wasn't a negotiator. It was a symbol of power, a declaration that humanity was no longer the weak, helpless species the galaxy had once considered them to be. As the shadow of the warship loomed over the Earth, the people watched in stunned silence. The ambassador, who had come with hopes of forging an alliance, was now standing before a species that had something far more dangerous to offer. The Aegis was a warship, and it had arrived with one purpose: to defend humanity by force if necessary. The world's leaders scrambled to make sense of the situation. The message from the ambassador, once filled with promises of peace, now seemed hollow. The Aegis had sent a much stronger message. Peace was no longer the goal. Humanity was preparing for war, and the galaxy would soon know that Earth was not to be underestimated. As the ambassador remained silent, the people of Earth began to realize the significance of what was happening. The arrival of the Aegis was not just a visit from an alien race, it was a challenge. The ambassador had fallen silent because he had no answer. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The sun was blocked, and Earth stood at the edge of a new era. What had begun as an offer of peace was now a dangerous game of power. Humanity was ready to play, and the universe would soon learn that it was not a game they intended to lose. The Aegis hovered in space, casting its long shadow over the planet. It was a reminder to all who watched. Humanity was no longer a species on the fringes of the galaxy. They had arrived, and their warship had just covered the sun. As the Aegis continued to loom over Earth, casting an unnatural twilight across the planet, the alien ambassador remained silent. The message he had hoped to deliver, a plea for peace, for unity, was now lost in the presence of humanity's greatest weapon. The warship, still blocking the sun, had become a symbol of mankind's hidden strength. an undeniable force that shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. While the ambassador stood speechless, the leaders of Earth scrambled to understand the magnitude of what had just occurred. The sudden appearance of the Aegis was no accident. It had been planned for years. What the alien species didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this very moment, long before the ambassador's arrival. The Aegis wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's final answer to a galaxy that had underestimated them for far too long. In the war rooms of Earth's governments, military leaders gathered in a rare, urgent meeting. They watched the broadcast, their faces hardening as they saw the alien ship hovering above the planet. The Aegis had been designed in complete secrecy, constructed in the shadow of Earth's own isolation. For decades, the human race had been focused on surviving, on advancing technologically, but always under the radar. Now it was time for the galaxy to see the result of humanity's perseverance. The Aegis had been built with one purpose in mind: to protect Earth from any threat, foreign or domestic. Its creators had known that the galaxy would one day come to Earth, and they had prepared for that day in silence. The Aegis was humanity's answer to the years of scorn, the centuries of being considered insignificant. Now it was clear, humanity had a power that could rival any empire, and they were ready to use it. The first time the Aegis was activated, it sent a pulse of energy across the solar system, enough to disrupt the satellites orbiting Earth. In mere moments, the communication networks between Earth and the alien ships above were severed. The ambassador's message, which had been so carefully crafted, was now useless. No one could speak to Earth from space, not the aliens, not anyone. The Aegis had rendered them mute, its electromagnetic field suffocating all communications. As news of the disruption spread across Earth, it became clear that this was no ordinary weapon. The Aegis was something beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. A ship powered by unknown technologies that allowed it to wield unimaginable force. It was not just a symbol of military might. It was the embodiment of humanity's determination and defiance. But the question remained: what would humanity do with this power? Would they wield it as a weapon of domination, or would they use it as a shield protecting their home from those who had sought to control them? The answer was not yet clear, but one thing was certain: humanity was not afraid. In the days that followed, the world watched as the Aegis remained stationed in orbit, its shadow still eclipsing the sun. The alien fleets, now aware of the power humanity possessed, hesitated. There was no precedent for this. There had never been a race as unyielding as humanity, one that had spent centuries fighting to survive. The Alien Council, having heard rumors of human resilience, had dismissed them as stories. But now they knew the truth. Humanity was not a species to be ignored. While the alien ships lingered in space, unsure of their next move, Earth's leaders gathered in secret. The Aegis had become both a beacon of hope and a terrifying reminder of the power they now commanded. They could choose to engage in negotiations, seek peace, or they could choose a different path entirely, one where humanity took its place as a dominant force in the galaxy. A sense of urgency filled the room as the leaders debated their course of action. The military wanted to push forward, to show the galaxy that humanity would not be cowed. The diplomats urged caution, reminding everyone that the aliens had come with an offer of peace. Yet even they couldn't ignore the tension that gripped their hearts. The Aegis was a declaration, one that could not be misunderstood. Its very presence in the sky was enough to silence the ambassador and keep the alien fleets at bay. It was then that the world's most powerful general, a man who had spent his life preparing for this moment, stood up. His voice was firm, resolute, and filled with the weight of history. "We have waited long enough to be recognized," he said, looking each leader in the eye. "The Aegis is not just a ship, it is the legacy of our survival. The galaxy thought it could ignore us, but now we have a chance to change everything. We will not cower. We will show them that we are not here to negotiate. We are here to take our place in the stars." His words echoed in the room, and for the first time the leaders of Earth saw the truth of what had been building for centuries. This was no longer about survival. This was about power, and humanity had it. As the decision was made, the Aegis continued to hover above Earth, its presence a constant reminder of humanity's new strength. The alien ships, now positioned at the edge of the solar system, waited in tense silence. They had come to offer peace, but humanity had something else in mind. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. And as humanity's warship blotted out the sun, the first steps toward their place in the stars had already begun. The galaxy had watched, but now, humanity had become a force that could not be ignored. What would come next was anyone's guess, but one thing was certain. The age of human submission was over. The Aegis had risen, and with it, humanity's destiny. The alien council sat in complete silence as the Aegis continued to block the sun. Its shadow stretched over the Earth, a dark omen that filled the alien leaders with a sense of unease they had never known. For centuries, the galaxy had been divided among powerful empires, each one ruling over their domain with strength and authority. But humanity? They had been dismissed as insignificant, primitive beings unworthy of even a passing thought. Now, as the massive warship hovered above Earth, they had no choice but to confront the unimaginable truth. Humanity had awakened. Inside the council chambers, the most powerful alien leaders gathered. They were a diverse group, ruthless, calculating, and fiercely protective of their empires. The Andarian Queen, a being of immeasurable intellect and cunning, was the first to speak. Her species had long been the galaxy's leaders, their technology centuries ahead of others. Her voice was smooth, almost cold, but there was a rare tremor of doubt in it now. This Aegis. How could they have built something like this? She asked, her mind racing. The ambassador, who had failed to deliver his message, stood in the corner, his presence barely acknowledged. He had become irrelevant in this moment. The Noxan, a brutal race of conquerors known for their military prowess, grunted in agreement. Their ships were feared across the galaxy, but they had never seen anything like Aegis. The Noxan leader, Korath, clenched his fists, his sharp claws digging into his palms. Humanity. We thought them weak, a species of fragile flesh and weak minds, yet now they show this power. What do we do now? Do we destroy them, or do we wait? The Githar, a race of ancient beings whose mastery of dark energy had allowed them to manipulate space itself, spoke next. Their leader, Zareth, had seen empires rise and fall, but never before had they encountered a species so unpredictable. We must not rush to judgment. This Aegis could be a mere tool, a weapon meant to intimidate. But we cannot ignore what we have seen. The Aegis is not just a ship, it is a statement. The room filled with tension as the leaders of the galaxy's most formidable empires pondered their next move. The Aegis had arrived without warning, blocking out the sun and rendering all attempts at communication useless. The alien fleets, which had once looked down upon humanity as an insignificant blip in the vastness of space, now found themselves at a crossroads. The Aegis had shifted the balance of power, and they had no idea what humanity was capable of. The ambassador's silence was deafening. He had been tasked with establishing an alliance, but his message had been overshadowed by the warship that loomed above the Earth. It had been a failed mission, one that would go down in history as a turning point. The ambassador knew that his people could not afford to wait much longer. The Aegis was a challenge, one that would force the galaxy to recognize humanity's power, whether they liked it or not. The debate within the council intensified as each race voiced their concerns. The Zarnari, a race of scholars known for their pacifist ways, urged restraint. The humans do not know what they have unleashed. We must approach them with caution. If we attack, we risk provoking something we do not understand. But the Noxan were not known for their caution. Korath slammed his fist on the table, his eyes blazing with anger. We cannot allow this. They have insulted us by showing their power. We must strike, and we must strike now. Zareth, ever the pragmatist, leaned forward. No, Korath. You are right about one thing. They have insulted us. But their power is not like ours. If we attack, we risk triggering a war that could destroy us all. We cannot underestimate the Aegis. The tension in the room was palpable. The alien leaders had never been faced with a situation like this. They were used to controlling the galaxy, to dominating weaker species, but humanity had shown them that they were no longer a passive target. The Aegis was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of defiance, a statement that humanity was not to be underestimated. The Andarian Queen's voice cut through the room, her tone sharp. Enough. We will not make the same mistake twice. We will not underestimate humanity again. But we cannot let this challenge go unanswered. I propose we send an emissary to Earth. We must understand the Aegis and its purpose before we make any decisions. If humanity truly seeks war, we will give it to them. But if they seek peace, we must know. The council was divided, but there was no time to waste. The alien fleets, which had once been poised to conquer, now hesitated. The Aegis had rendered their advantage useless. The sun, once their guiding light, was now hidden behind the shadow of humanity's power. The ambassador, who had remained silent throughout the debate, now stepped forward. His eyes were heavy with the weight of failure, but there was a new determination in his voice. "I will go," he said, his voice firm. "I will speak to them. I will learn what humanity wants, and I will bring back the answer." As the ambassador prepared to return to Earth, the alien council watched with bated breath. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Would humanity choose peace? Or would they show the galaxy the true extent of their power? The Aegis still loomed above Earth, its dark shadow cast across the planet. The warship had become a symbol of humanity's defiance, and the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The decision had been made. The ambassador would go to Earth. But what awaited him there would be more than he had ever anticipated. The galaxy was about to learn the truth. Humanity had a place in the stars, and they were ready to claim it. The Aegis hung in orbit, its colossal form still blocking out the sun, casting an ominous shadow over Earth. Below, the world's leaders watched in stunned silence as the alien emissary, the very same ambassador who had once come to deliver a message of peace, now stood at the heart of a whirlwind of uncertainty. For the first time, humanity was faced with a decision that would define its place in the universe. Would it continue to seek peace, or would it rise to the challenge and assert its power? The warship Aegis was not just a ship, it was a statement. It had arrived without warning, with an unspoken promise of what Earth was capable of. No one had expected it, not even the aliens who had come with their own grand designs. But now the situation had escalated beyond anyone's control. The alien fleets, hesitant and confused, hovered at the edge of the solar system, while Earth's leaders debated their next move. In the vast, heavily secured war room deep within the United Nations headquarters, a somber group of the world's most influential figures gathered. The military, the diplomats, and the world leaders all watched as the Aegis loomed overhead, waiting for a decision. The room was filled with a tension that made it hard to breathe. The choices ahead were monumental, and the stakes had never been higher. The voice of General Marcus Caldwell, the head of Earth's military forces, broke the silence. His face, normally stern and resolute, was etched with lines of worry. "We've seen what they're capable of. The Aegis is a weapon, a clear message to the galaxy that humanity is not weak. But we don't know if they came in peace or with ulterior motives. We cannot be certain of their intentions, and that's a risk I'm not willing to take." Caldwell's words hung in the air, and for a moment everyone in the room was silent. There was truth to what he said. The Aegis was humanity's most powerful creation, and it had given Earth an edge that no one had expected. But at what cost? Could peace still be achieved? Or had the mere presence of such overwhelming power already closed that door forever? Opposing him, Ambassador Sophia Larkin, a seasoned diplomat who had spent decades fostering international relations and peace talks, stood up. Her voice was calm but unwavering. "General, we cannot let fear drive us. The Aegis is a symbol, yes, but it is also a choice. Humanity has never been a race of conquerors. We have always sought to build, to create, and to understand. The ambassador came here with an offer. We have to respond with diplomacy, not aggression. We cannot lose sight of the ideals that make us human." Her words resonated with many, especially those in the room who still believed that peace was a possibility. But General Caldwell was unyielding. He had seen too much, fought too many battles, and understood too well that diplomacy, while noble, often failed when the stakes were this high. "Peace," he said flatly, "is an illusion if you don't have the power to back it up. We've tried peace before. We've been rejected. This time humanity stands as equals. No one will dictate our fate." The debate grew heated, each side presenting its case with growing intensity. The military pushed for a show of strength, urging Earth to use the Aegis as a tool of dominance to force the aliens into submission. The diplomats argued for caution, emphasizing that a war with the aliens could lead to catastrophic consequences not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Amidst the chaos, President Aiden Thompson, a figure known for his calm and measured approach, raised his hand to quiet the room. His eyes, tired but sharp, surveyed the faces of the world's most powerful people. "We stand at a crossroads," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "Humanity has never been more powerful, and that power has come with a heavy burden. If we strike first, we risk losing what we've worked for, the very peace we've fought so hard to protect. But if we let our fear control us, we risk showing weakness when we have the upper hand." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This is a moment for a decision that will change the course of history. If we choose to stand to show the galaxy that humanity has risen to this challenge, we must be prepared to face the consequences. We cannot go back once we make that choice." The room fell silent again, but this time the air felt different. It was not the silence of confusion or uncertainty, but the quiet before a storm. The decision had to be made, and the weight of that choice settled heavily on every leader's shoulders. On Earth's surface, the world's citizens watched, glued to their screens, as the news unfolded in real time. The streets buzzed with nervous excitement. Some believed that humanity should embrace the power they had discovered, while others still held on to the hope of diplomacy. Protests erupted in major cities, with some calling for war, others for peace. But one thing was clear. The Aegis had united humanity under a single banner, and that banner was no longer the meek, fragile race that had once cowered in fear. The Aegis symbolized something greater, the collective will of a species that had chosen to stand tall. As the debate raged on in the war room, a decision was finally made. President Thompson turned to General Caldwell and Ambassador Larkin. "Prepare the Aegis for a diplomatic mission. We will not fire the first shot. We will send a message not with guns but with resolve. We will offer peace, but we will show that humanity will not back down if provoked. The Aegis will remain as a symbol of our strength." The decision was made. The Aegis would not be used as a weapon of war, at least not yet. Instead, humanity would offer an olive branch, hoping that the alien species would recognize their newfound strength and agree to negotiations. As the Aegis prepared for its next move, the question still lingered in the air. Would the galaxy accept humanity as a worthy ally, or would they see Earth's boldness as a threat? Humanity had made its decision. Now it was up to the stars to decide what would come next. The universe had watched. Now it would see what humanity was truly made of. The Aegis stood in the void of space, its massive frame casting a shadow over Earth that reached out like a dark omen. The ship, humanity's greatest achievement, had been built to protect, to defend, and now it was the center of the galaxy's attention. The alien fleets, once poised to strike, had retreated, unwilling to make the first move against a force they hadn't fully understood. Earth had made its choice. Humanity would offer peace, but only on their terms. However, the tension was far from over. Humanity's decision to send the Aegis as a diplomatic envoy had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The alien species had already begun to mobilize, debating how to respond. The ambassadors of the most powerful races in the galaxy, once so sure of their superiority, now faced a new reality. Humanity was no longer the fragile, insignificant species they had once thought them to be. The Aegis was more than just a ship. It was a symbol that demanded respect. In the vast war room beneath the United Nations, the world's leaders gathered once more. The president, the generals, the diplomats all stood on the edge of a precipice, knowing that whatever came next would change the fate of their species. The Aegis had been launched into space not as a weapon, but as a messenger of humanity's resolve. It was a delicate balance, peace or war. The final stand was about to begin. The screen in front of the leaders flickered to life. displaying the faces of the alien emissaries. Their expressions were unreadable, a mix of suspicion and curiosity. The ambassador, the very same one who had once offered peace to humanity, stood at the forefront, his gaze cold but not entirely hostile. "We have received your message, Earth," the ambassador began, his voice devoid of emotion. "Your Aegis is an impressive ship, a testament to your species' technological advancements. However, you must understand that the galaxy does not bow to power alone. Your weapon is formidable, but it is not invincible. We have seen what you can do, and now we must decide how we will respond." President Thompson leaned forward, his voice steady but laced with an edge of determination. "We do not seek war, Ambassador. We offer peace, but let it be known, humanity will not cower in the face of threats. We are not here to negotiate from a position of weakness, nor will we accept any terms that seek to control us. We have earned the right to be heard." The alien representatives exchanged glances, their eyes filled with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. They were not accustomed to being challenged. The alien fleets, though vast and powerful, had always known that their might was unquestioned, but humanity's sudden emergence as a power to be reckoned with had thrown everything into chaos. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were uncertain how to proceed. The Andarian queen, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. "Your actions have drawn a line in the sand, humanity. You have shown that you are no longer weak, no longer in need of our protection or our alliance. But do not mistake our hesitation for fear. The galaxy is vast, and we do not bow to those who are not worthy." Her words sent a shiver through the room. The leaders of Earth knew that the stakes were higher than ever before. The Aegis was their final line of defense, but they had no idea what the alien fleets were capable of. The tension was palpable. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and Earth could be plunged into a conflict that could destroy everything they had built. General Caldwell, who had been silent during the exchange, stood up. "We are ready for whatever comes next. The Aegis is a weapon of peace, yes, but it is also a weapon of war, if that is the path you choose to force us down. Humanity will not be bullied, and we will not surrender." The words rang out with a strength that was both defiant and unwavering. Humanity had made its stand, and now the galaxy had to decide whether to accept their offer or bring the full weight of its fleets to bear. The Aegis was a symbol of humanity's resolve, a declaration that they would no longer be the underdogs. For a long moment, the alien council remained silent. The weight of the decision hung over them. They had underestimated humanity, but now they were faced with a choice: accept this newfound power or crush it before it could grow. The ambassadors could see the resolve in the faces of Earth's leaders. They were not bluffing. Finally, the ambassador spoke again, his voice slow and deliberate. "Humanity's power is undeniable, but so is our resolve. We will not be intimidated, but perhaps there is a way forward. Perhaps there is a place for your species in the galaxy, a place where strength and peace can coexist. But you must prove it. Prove that your power does not come from fear, but from a desire to build something greater." It was a concession, a small one, but it was enough. The alien fleets, still positioned at the edge of the solar system, had been ordered to stand down. The Aegis would not face immediate attack, and a window for negotiation had been opened. President Thompson stood tall, a sense of relief washing over him. "We will prove ourselves, Ambassador. We will show the galaxy that humanity has a place among the stars, not through domination but through unity. We will build, not destroy." The camera feed flickered off, leaving the room in silence. The weight of the moment settled heavily on everyone present. The Aegis remained in orbit, its shadow still cast over Earth, a symbol of the power that humanity had unveiled. But for now, the immediate threat had passed. The universe had watched, and now humanity had made its mark. It was not just a species on the fringe of the galaxy, no longer an afterthought. Humanity had shown the galaxy its strength, and in doing so, had earned the chance to stand on equal footing with the most powerful civilizations in the cosmos. The battle for Earth's place in the stars had only just begun, but for the first time, humanity had the power to determine its own fate, and with that the universe had learned the truth. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. It was a species to be reckoned with.